All right. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first webinar of the new year. So excited to have you all here. I am going to share my screen and all right. Team, am I on the right one?
You are? Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So, this is a really fun topic and a great guest that we have today. We're so excited to have Sharon with us. You all know me, though. We've been doing this for a while now. I think we're going to go so this March, Tanaka, will it be 6 years? It'll be
It
six
will
years this
be.
March
It'll be six
that we've been
years.
doing the webinars. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you all for hanging in there with us. They're fun. So today we have our special guest, Sharon L'herou, and the topic is no, 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 why sometimes saying no is more important than saying yes. I am going to read a little bit of her bio and give you an idea of who Sharon is. Sharon L'herou is a distinguished strategist and former nonprofit executive with over 20 years of experience leading mission-driven organizations through periods of critical growth and systemic change. Most recently, Sharon served for 11 years as the president and CEO of 211 Palm Beach and the Treasure Coast. During her tenure, she transformed the organization into a regional powerhouse for crisis intervention, notably overseeing the local implementation of the National 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Her leadership was defined by a focus on operational excellence, financial sustainability, and the expansion of vital community safety nets. In June 2025, Sharon transitioned to become the founder and CEO of SL Creative and Consulting, where she leverages her deep institutional knowledge to help nonprofit leaders navigate strategic planning, board governance, and executive transitions. She remains a prominent voice in the sector, recently hosting the 2026 Leadership Intensive, No, 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 The Power of Strategic Refusal. Welcome, Sharon. Let me just make sure, are we recording? Are we all good? I'm
Yeah.
just double
We
checking.
are recording. Yep.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Sharon, it is such a pleasure to have you with us. This is such a fun topic. And, I was telling you just a few minutes ago that the topic precedes you. You haven't even presented yet. And it was already a buzz this morning at a chamber meeting I was at.
I
So
love
obviously,
that.
it strikes a chord. It strikes
I,
a chord.
I love that. And I told you I wasn't sure what topic I should focus on first. And I gave you a few, and you said, I think this one. And I was like, that's the one that's speaking to me too. So let's do it.
All right. Fantastic. Great. Well, I'll let you take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for that great introduction. This topic came to my attention from the team I was working with at 211. And they teased at the time, they said, you should do a class on how to say no. And I said, maybe I will. So this is the first time I've offered this. So I'm fleshing it out with all of you. So thank you for that opportunity. Um, I would love to just have an idea of who's in the room. And I don't want to take up our brief time with, person by person introductions, but if anyone would like to just throw out their quick name and where they're Zooming from or their organization, I am Zooming from Delray Beach, South Florida, where the weather is lovely. Anybody else?
Hi, Sharon. This is Rhonda
Hey,
Rogers, and I am Zooming from Boynton Beach. And thank you for presenting today.
hey, Rhonda, I saw your name pop up. It's nice to see another familiar face. That's awesome.
Yes, I love both of you. I've taken several of Kristen's class, and when I saw your name, I said, I can't miss this.
Oh, thank you, Rhonda. That's so kind.
Well, I can go next. Pembroke Pines. This is Eduardo.
Hey, Eduardo.
Just love this woman to your, well, to my right,
My right too.
Kirsten. But the no, no, no really got to me, so I needed to hear more about it. So
Okay,
thank you for joining us this morning.
fabulous. Anybody else want to say a quick hi? All right, well, I'm going to pull up the slides in a second. But the very first slide, I wanted to see your faces until I have to get to the PowerPoint presentation. The very first question that I wanted to ask is anybody busy? Y'all can start telling me whether or not you feel busy while I share my screen. Who's busy? I want this to be interactive. You're going to enjoy more if we have conversation all along. So feel free. Can you see
Sharon,
this?
it's coming. And Marissa says hello from New Jersey.
Okay.
We're
Hi.
Maine Library Alliance, a library cooperative.
Okay.
Lori Dodd Gorman, Texas nonprofit, Texas Midwest Community Network, 34 counties in the Midwest Texas area. And
Okay.
Rhonda says she's too busy.
Right. Who's busy? I mean, Rhonda cannot be the only one busy. So if y'all don't want to shout out, throw it in the chat. This
Ugh.
is how I think some of us feel. See, why is it not doing my slides? This worked there we go, so beautifully just a minute ago. Does anybody feel like this?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Right? All right. So everyone feels that there's busy, that they are busy, that they're too busy. So let's talk about an aspect of being busy that I learned in my last role. Is there a downside to can do? What do you guys think? Is there a downside to can do? When I walked into 211, one of the things that I loved, and I still love, is this feeling that the team was such a can do team. I was like, wow, like they are just good for everything and so dedicated and energetic. What do you guys think? All right.
Yeah.
Well,
It can become such a downfall.
yeah, the dilemma with can do is that is often our default. People with the can do attitude feel like they always have to be can do, right? And that's going to make it a lot harder to make strategic choices. And we know if we're too busy, we're going to have to make choices. So, one of the things I observed in the team at 211 and in my nonprofit peers is it seems like we have what I've termed an overactive sense of responsibility. So this is just my observation. So tell me if you guys think that this is so, but this is what I've seen. I have seen that and let me say, I am speaking from experience. I am not saying that I walked into 211 knowing this stuff. I am saying I stumbled a lot, right? And the things like the can do, I learned have another side. There's another side to the coin. They're valuable, it's important, but I found that everyone, myself and almost everyone on my team, had this idea that when a problem got presented, they didn't question it, they just attempted to solve it. Again, it's good, except that as you grow your team and as you create structure and as you have to make choices, sometimes you might find three people have been working on solving a problem and they didn't align, right? Because it didn't occur to them that anyone else was supposed to be solving the problem. Or here's another one. Someone would come to me and say that they had worked on this solution to a problem that they saw that had been solved 5 years ago, right? And I didn't know it had recurred as a problem. So maybe if someone had brought it up, this was a recurring problem, I could say, oh, wow, we've got a whole go by. We have a flow chart on this thing. So I found there was a downside to can do, and that in this social services field, especially, but maybe in a lot of places, some of us have an overactive sense of responsibility. So I think we need to be mindful of that tendency, right? And
I have
then,
a question for you, Sharon,
yeah,
on that.
yeah,
So, do you think that part of that comes from the fact that we, especially those of us who've worked in small nonprofits and helped build them from scratch, that we have such a range of things that we've learned to do and taught ourselves to do that because we know how to do it, we instinctively feel like we should jump in and do it, as opposed to saying, okay, well, just because I know how to do it doesn't mean that it's my job or it should be on my plate today. There is actually someone else whose job it is. But it seems it's almost, I mean, I see that as a small business owner
yeah,
because I built it, I know how to do all of the
right,
pieces. And so it's hard for me to hold back when I see things happening and maybe it's not moving as quickly as I would like, or I've got the answer because I already know, because I already did it once before. But isn't that part of it too, that we're generalists in a way and we know a little bit of everything. So it's kind of our nature?
I think that's an important piece of it. I think there are a lot of pieces of it. I think another piece is self-selection, right? The people who become more successful and then have a sense of responsibility themselves and built something, whether that's in social services or, as you say, in business, that it's a self-selected pool of people that have this style. Then you come together and you're all doing that. I also think in the nonprofit world, we've been starved for resources. So for many of us, the way we were trained up, I mean, I remember being reprimanded by a CEO as a young person, and she was lovely. She didn't mean it, but I just was because I used the wrong paper in the copier. And she was like, "Do you know how much that paper costs? It costs such many cents a page. You don't use that paper for this thing. You use this paper." Like, okay, right? So we've been so resource starved. So I think there's a lot of reasons for it, but I think that it's so natural to us that we don't recognize it. And so I wanted to put a little bit of a light on it and say this can make it harder to say no. This. So, and what are our choices if we're too busy? And I'm not going to delve into these because this is a whole nother workshop, right? But we're either going to keep trying to work harder, longer, better. Anybody here doing that? Harder, longer, better, right? We're going to add more people to do the work. But adding more people also adds an element of management and coordination, cost. So that may not always be the answer we think it is, or we're going to narrow our focus. Those are the primary choices. Does anybody want to share anything about these or talk a little bit more about some of these? Do you have any other choices that you've seen? Work harder, longer, better, add more people, reduce the work.
I think one of the things that we need to be looking at is the utilization of the artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's solid. And I would say we could even make a bigger umbrella than that and say technology solutions. So I could have added that as a bullet point. Maybe I'll add it to the next one. Thank you. Because I did try that too, not just AI, a little bit with AI, but lots of technology solutions. And all of them have their place, I think. All right. Does anybody have any worries about saying no? Because this is one of the big barriers. So y'all have to start. I have lots and lots of my own ideas, but what are some of the reasons that we don't say no? And I should have said to you guys that this is more focused on an organizational perspective. Like, what should the organization do? Organizational direction rather than as an individual person within the organization saying no, but a lot of the things are applicable to both.
Well, Sharon,
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, from an organizational standpoint, I think it's internally, when you think of an organization, if you say no to a directive, then it becomes something that would probably be added to another team member. And so the fear of saying no is because you're going to just now pile on more work to someone else who probably may be already overworked or have a full
Absolutely.
plate as well.
Absolutely. And that's especially true, as you say, as an internal organization member, if you're being asked to do a task. All right. Any other thoughts around saying no?
Well, I've been retired for 12, 13 years, and the word no has never been a part of my vocabulary. And I just anything you want, Ed, can you come and get me? I'll say, yeah, surely.
Yep.
I'm about an hour and a half away, and I'll go get you. And this
Right.
is it's the way that I was brought up.
Yes.
But I've learned lately that I may need to start saying the word no from time to time. But it's so hard for me, so
It's so
hard.
hard. It's so hard. Ed, so I'm going to share with you guys that when I stepped into 211, we literally had $3,000 all together, all of our pennies scraped together, and we could not make payroll consistently. And we were looking at, to be honest, we were looking at possibly closing. That's the situation that the organization was in. And I had a board member. Any of you guys have difficult board members? I had a difficult board member. I had a difficult board member, and I want to say he and I are still friendly with each other today because I got some good advice from another board member is that sometimes difficult people can still have good feedback. And if you can allow yourself to take the feedback and separate it from the criticism, you can often develop a relationship and grow. And I did try to take that to heart. So here's what he told me. He said, you will not be successful unless you can do a better job of saying no. He said that flat out and not in a nice way. So he said that, and then he asked me later, he said, and I'm going to have to call him. I meant to call him and tell him I was doing a presentation on this. Thank you, Bob. So he asked what were some of the things I was worried about? What was one of my biggest worries? And I said, one of my biggest worries is dropping the ball because we have so many things in the air. I just worry all of the time that we will lose, we will drop something that we weren't able to successfully complete. And he said, I'm going to share this with y'all. He said, you do not need to worry about dropping the ball. You need to know that you absolutely will drop the ball at some point. What you need to think about is which balls do you have to keep in the air and which thing, if it dropped, would not be a catastrophe. It would be okay. So that is the kind of thinking I think we need to all move towards, right? A recognition that especially, I think Kirsten's right that a lot of this is applicable to all businesses. We're all being asked to do more than is possible to do with the resources we have and on behalf of the stakeholders and or customers we have. In social services, there are more needs than we can ever fulfill, right? So we cannot expect that we will do all of it. So we really have to focus on what we're going to give our attention to. So fears around no that I came up with, and we can talk about them a little bit if you guys want. Relationship risk. If you're an organization and you tell a stakeholder or a partner no, you've got to be mindful of this. And I'm talking about these things because I don't want to make it sound like saying no is easy or that saying no comes from something that it doesn't come without risk. You have to be mindful of all of these things as you decide which direction to go. We worry it's going to jeopardize our credibility. It's going to possibly shrink our presence. It's going to reduce our impact. It might let needs go unfulfilled. It will let needs go unfulfilled. In the social service sector, we know when we say no, some people who need help won't get helped. And we know we're here to help them. So back to Ed's point, really hard to say no. What do you guys think about these? Do these fears resonate with you when it comes to trying to say no?
100%. 100%. And one of the things that, so I think immediately of board members and
Yeah,
saying no to board members and their ideas and their brainstorming and vision for the future and oh we should try this project and we should maybe look at that. So that is a big one.
for
But
sure.
also with donors, there's a piece, right? So saying
Yeah,
no to donors
yeah,
sometimes, it could be everything from the gift is not aligned or comes with too many strings, or it could be that a particular initiative that they want to fund that is not within the mission and scope of the organization.
right,
Or it could even be donors that are just really pulling on your time and
right,
you just don't have the capacity to, accommodate them.
right. And so with all of that, the dilemma is, and I love that you listed off, you itemized some of those because the reality is those all represent real and true requests we get. And so what we have to do though, in the face of all that risk, we have to figure out what is the cost of saying yes to all of those things? Is it even
Mhm.
possible? If you have all those demands and requests coming at you all the time, is it even possible to do all of them? So that leads me to the cost of saying yes.
I have just a comment on the nose. The note. I think, yeah, I learned to that I have to say no sometimes. And yes, all the bullet points that you put in there, yeah, I'm always afraid of all of those. But I think in this I learned from my dad, whenever you have to say a no or something that could be negative, you can turn it into positive, and it's the way you say it and the way you word whatever you want to say. So a no could be a very positive thing if you word it that way.
I love that. And I have a slide that talks all about how to roll out the no, which is why I think that the staff I was working with suggested I do something like this, because it came up. How do you say your first name? I'm sorry, I don't want to say it wrong.
Lulis.
Lulis. That's fabulous feedback. And a lot of the manager level people, team members that I worked with had difficulty giving corrective feedback to their staff. And I had so many conversations with them around because they would say, we're supposed to be nice. I'm a nice person. And I would say, I'm nice too. You can be nice and you can be caring and you can give good feedback to your team members. And I would say, here's the other thing you have to think about. If you have a team member who is doing half of the work of the person they're sitting next to, and the person they're sitting next to is so overloaded, in our case, we were answering crisis calls, right? So one person is answering 30 calls a day, pulling their hair out, frantic, and the person sitting next to them is on their phone in between every call, taking a little mini break. Is that nice to the person who's carrying the extra weight and stress? And it is not. So I think, Luis, to your point, what we have to do is become more comfortable with giving the key feedback and doing it in a kind way, a kind and thoughtful way. So these are some of the costs of saying yes that I came up with. And I can talk about them, but before I start talking about them, would you guys like to throw out any of your thoughts on the risks or costs of saying yes? Well, I'm going to get started, but because I don't want to have a lot of, downtime, but while I'm talking, if anyone has a thought that you want to add, raise your hand or just speak up, because as I've said, I think the most fun part is this engagement. And I think that you're going to get the most out of it. We're each going to get the most out of it if we learn together and if we share our thoughts with one another, right? And I focus on what's most important to you. Okay, so the obvious first risk of saying yes is opportunity cost. So if you're already overloaded and some really valuable thing pops up, how are you going to do that if your team is already buried? And that was a real challenge for us and the team at 211 doing the crisis work, answering suicide prevention calls and running a 24/7 operation. Sanity, I took this off, I put it on, I took it on and off. Really, we got to stay healthy and well, right? Sanity, burnout, these are things to be aware of. I've got somebody I'm working with right now. I'm concerned about this. They're just working all of the time and none of the efforts that we are putting forward to try to help them offload some things or delegate or train others are working. And a lot of it comes back to Kirsten, the comment you made earlier around this person knows they can do it accurately and better, and they're faced with a deadline. So rather than trying to extract the time to train the other person, they keep doing it, but they'll never get out of that hole, right? We'll never get them out of that hole if we can't share the work a little bit more equitably. Dropping the ball. So if we say yes to everything, it's going to make it a lot more likely that we're going to drop the ball on something, right? Overextending programmatically. Are we going to be able to hit all the targets we said? Are we going to be able to do all of the things that we promised? In my first year at 211, when we were struggling so much, we were going after dollars. We wrote a lot of grants. We had so many ambitious ideas and we were going to do so many things. And when it comes time to report on the grant, you know what? We said New Year's came fast. 6-month reporting period comes so fast. Sometimes you haven't had time to hire someone. Sometimes you hired someone and you haven't trained that person, right? These things take a long time and we have to think about them. And how many of you know a business that's gone out of business? I think all of us, right? How many of you know a nonprofit or more than one nonprofit that's gone out of business? So that was a formative learning experience for me early in my career. When I was getting ready, I wanted to have a second baby. I wanted to slow down my career a little bit, work a little bit less time. We live in a country that requires us to save all of our leave if we're lucky enough to have leave for the privilege of having a child and taking off time while you have a child. I had done all of this for a year. I had a little bit of sick leave, a little bit of vacation leave, and the little small nonprofit that I was working for closed, went out of business, had to be taken over by another nonprofit. So, and honestly, I hate to be, don't want to blame people, but our leader at that time, he could not say no. If you walked into his office and got agreement to something, you felt good about it, you walked out. Susie walked in behind you, wanted the complete opposite thing. He said yes to Susie. Absolutely could not say no. So it was a formative experience for me. And since then I've seen so many here locally. The 211 and our just to the south of us in Miami, shortly after I came to 211, that 211 collapsed in bankruptcy. We lost one of our primary psychiatric facilities here in Palm Beach County. And all of this was financial. So one of the things, to your point, Lulis, that I do when I'm saying no is I say, we want to serve this community. And you know what? We want to keep serving this community. And in order to be able to continue serving the people who are most at risk, we have to stay financially stable. So that's part of one of the ways I say no. So any other cost of saying yes that people want to add before I move to the next slide?
It brings stress into your life.
Oh my goodness, yes. Why didn't I add that one? I could probably make this bullet list very long. It's a very good one.
Yeah.
It adds so much stress. Yes. All right. So if we know all of this, why do we keep saying yes? Here's what I decided to call it. The saying yes delusions. Okay. So how many of you have ever said yourself or heard someone say, we will do it when things slow down? When are things going to slow down? I'm still waiting. Right? And I used to say when I was leading 211, I used to often say, I need time to think about that. And I learned that that was a tough thing too, because unless I carved out time, there wasn't time to think.
Mm-hmm.
That we could probably add that to the bullet for the slide before, right? Time to think.
Mm-hmm.
How are you making good decisions if you don't have time to think? I'll get it done. I'm going to get it done. I get it done. I'm a get it done person. I'm going to stay late. I'm going to work harder. Now we got somebody at the office at 11 o'clock at night, working weekends, not healthy, not sustainable. What are some other things you guys have heard that people imagine they're going to be able to do it with their say yes? Say yes. Any other thoughts?
I just hear it's when things improve, when we have
Yes.
the funds, when we do this. There's this whole
When it gets better.
When it gets better, when the economy's better, when the political situation is better, it's one thing after another. It's almost like future excuses. It's sort of all these motivations for when we say we're going to be able to get to things. And the reality is, are we ever really going to be able to get to it? And not only that, but to do it effectively.
Exactly. I think I'm a chronically late person. Why? Because I'm always trying to do one more thing, right? And I read an article about people like that, and they basically talked about sort of time delusions. So if I manage to drive there in 30 minutes, I'll say this to my husband, it takes me 12 minutes to get to this location. And he will say, on what day does it take you 12 minutes? It takes you 20 minutes to get here every day, 20 minutes. Like, no, I timed it. It was 12 minutes. Well, I mean, I guess that one time when school was out, I was off hours and I caught every green light. I don't know. But in my mind, 12 minutes. And I don't account, or I didn't account for all the time that I have to get my water bottle and I have to double check where my keys are. And do I have my purse? And did I get all of that stuff takes time. So I think we do operate under some delusions, and I think we have some say yes.
And you're right, Sharon. The other part of that is that we're overly optimistic about the use of our time or about
Right.
what we can accomplish.
Right.
And so if we are coming into a situation saying, oh, yeah, but that'll be so easy. We'll get that done, no problem. And now we've taken on an additional project that our entire team is going to have to devote time to. And it ends up taking 30 more hours than we anticipated. It's, now we've just set ourselves up for failure and burnout and everything that was on your prior slide list. So,
Exactly. I thought through this early in my career when I was running so late for it was probably a grant deadline. And back then, although I still have some grants now that you have to print the copies, but often you would have to print the copies. And so I'm just under the wire and frantic, and the printer jams, and this doesn't work and that doesn't work. And I was so frustrated at why is it always when you're running late, things don't work right? Why anybody else ever experienced that when you're running late, things just don't work right? And afterwards, I had time to kind of debrief in my own mind a little bit. And one of the realizations I had was, you know what? In order to do one task, there are a million pieces of the puzzle that have to happen for that one task to be completed. The printer has to work. You have to have ink. All the people have to be available. You have to get the signatures. You have to have paper, right? A million little pieces. And maybe it's also a delusion to imagine that when I'm completing this task, every single thing will go smoothly. That's not realistic. It is not realistic. So I want to keep these things in mind as we make our decisions. All right, here's another thing that I realized in making these tough decisions. What questions are we usually asking to help us determine, do we do it or not? These are the questions my team and I were asking. Can we do it? Is it needed? Is it valuable? So I'm going to suggest that these aren't, not that you don't ask them, but they're not useful questions for decision making. Why do you guys think I'm saying that? Why are these questions not? They seem like such good questions. They're good questions. Nobody wants to risk a guess. Should I tell you, or are you gonna guess? All right.
tell us.
I see people who want to. That's the thing, is I see people leaning in. All right. Did I freeze up?
No, you're here.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to tell you what I concluded. All of these questions lead to yes. All of these questions lead to yes pretty much every time. And this is part of what's leading us down this path of the yes when we really probably shouldn't have said yes. Again, this is primarily organizationally focused. So for the organization, does the organization take on this project or not? So 211, can we do it? Yes, we can. Is it needed? Yes, it is. Is it valuable? Yes. Are we going to do it? Yes. Are we tired? Yes. You're right. You're right. Okay, so here's what I landed on to ask instead. And it is one question with a lot of subparts. So I'm going to flip the slide and we're going to talk about the question, but we're going to talk about the pieces of the question as well. So the simple question, keep it simple, right? So we can have a guiding principle. The simple question I landed on is, how does this serve us, this organization? How does taking on a new initiative serve our organization? So of course, first we have to think, does it fit with our mission? But one of the challenges I see with a lot of nonprofits is that the mission is broad enough that a lot of things can fit under that, right? So it's a good question, but it's not always as helpful as we might think for decision making. Does it fit within the mission? Do we have the financial resources to manage? This is a big, big, big one, because we recently, 211, took on a project and we did have the financial. So I'm happy to report that instead of $3,000 in the bank, I passed the baton with several $1 million in the bank, a cash reserve fund, board reserve fund, and the organization is right now just got permits to build a new facility. So I'm super proud of where we went in that time, right? So we did build financial reserves so that we could take on projects. One of the projects I took on in that period, we did not get, it was reimbursement. I hate reimbursement projects, hate them. It was a reimbursement project. We did not get our first reimbursement check, I think, for 5 months. So if you are taking on a reimbursement project, you better have cash flow to pay your staff while you wait for that money, right? So there's a lot of things. Do we have the staffing to manage? And when I say do we have the staffing to manage, I don't mean the program staff. I mean, how much time is it going to take for finance? How much time is it going to take to hire the people, to train the people, to supervise the people, right? Who's going to supervise the people if this is a new thing? I worked for a police department and they hired a social worker. It's worked out fine for them, but initially my thought was, supervising this person? Who on this team knows how to supervise a clinical social worker? Nobody. So if you get a rock star, you're going to be in good shape. I mean, really, does your road patrol officer know how to supervise a social worker? So if you get a rock star who will do everything independently, then you're great. But if you get someone who's not very capable, how would you even know? Right? Who's going to supervise this person? So do we have the staffing to manage? What other requirements do we have in the pipeline that might get risked? What could we drop the ball on that's really a core requirement because we're spending so much energy to launch this new effort, right? This expansion. And what other opportunities might be a better, more cohesive, more aligned fit that could pop up next week that now we can't take because we've committed to this, because we can't not do it once we've committed to it. How does this resonate with you guys? Does this sound like it fits with your experience? People think yes.
100%.
Anything to add? 100%. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we've decided that we're going to say no. Back to Luli's point, how do we say no? I like this graphic. Look at that. How are we going to say no? Yes to no. All right. So there are a few different strategies I employed in saying no. And of course, I titled this, no, 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 more to get people's attention and make people think, because we are certainly not going to our loving partners and our funders and saying, no, 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 right? We're going to roll it out much more gently than that. But in our head, we have to come to a decision. All right. So this is my favorite one, and the one that I landed on very quickly, and I used and still use all the time. Hey, Sharon, can y'all do blah, blah, blah? Yes, we can. We can do that. We will have to have a longer conversation, though, about the resources and time it would take to roll that out effectively. So when can we talk? Yes, we can, but I am setting the stage in the same breath, really, that in order to do it, it will take, guess what it will take? It will take time and money, right? It will take time and money. And so we have to have a conversation about what that would look like before we can move forward. And that was extremely well received. And we rolled out a number of projects with this strategy. Yes, as a no, kind of. So you're not really saying no, you're saying, let's discuss. But you are not saying yes either. And you're not saying yes to their parameters. You are putting yourself in the driver's seat of what the parameters need to look like and why. All right. No is a no. And this one is kind of, well, maybe, which is, we would love to do that. That sounds so exciting and valuable. And I would love our team to be part of that. We just don't have, I was going to do another slide, but I think we were going to be short on time with some options as what to say. We just don't have the bandwidth right now. We just embarked on another project. Whatever your rationale is, we don't have the financial resources for that right now. But can we talk about it down the road? Now, we have to know that when we say down the road, often the opportunity may go to someone else and we're not going to get it back. But I like adding that because it says we are genuinely interested and I want to have a conversation. Sometimes the opportunity goes to somebody else and things don't work out for whatever reason. And a few years later, it comes back around and they've already had a preliminary conversation with you. So it's very easy to make it happen. And that has happened for us. So no is no, maybe, right? All right, no is a no, full stop. Right. Here's where we're saying we really just can't do that right now. And the reason we really just can't do it right now. It doesn't fit within our scope. I had a board member talking about board members when I first started, and I told you the financial shape we were in, right? So what was my priority number one? Staying in business, making payroll. I had a board member who wanted us to distinguish ourselves by picking one big social issue and making that our mission to change that issue. And the thought that they had was homelessness. And I thought, there are at least half a dozen agencies right now in the county that we serve dealing directly with homelessness and struggling with that. How is our agency, where that's not even our primary focus or mission, going to manage that? So what I told her is, I would love to see an end to homelessness. I think that what we are going to have to do is prioritize, right? And then maybe we can revisit it. Also, in the meantime, there are a number of great organizations that are just actively engaged in that, right? So that was my no. And then no to your team's great idea. This one I found to be super hard because the team is excited and engaged and they have a wonderful idea. So you don't want to throw water on your team's great ideas and you don't want them to think that you're not going to do the things. So the way I handled this, especially in the beginning, I learned it in the beginning. And in order to do this, if you're not already doing it, you're going to have to, this would be another workshop. So we can make a list of workshops, Kirsten, but you have to always have your top, it comes back to strategy and vision. You have to have your top 2 or 3 priorities for that year, for that month in mind all the time. They have to be driving you as a leader and your organization. So what I would say is that's a cool idea. This year we're working on, and in the very beginning, I would say keeping this organization, getting this organization financially stable because we're in jeopardy, right? We're working on this thing and we're working on this thing. We're launching this project and we're launching this project. Or we're doing this technological innovation, right? We're doing this when we're onboarding this and we're doing that. We're hiring 3 new people, whatever it is, we're doing these things this year. But I love that idea. So let's add it to our down the road list. And at periodic leadership meetings, we can revisit our down the road list and then explore it so it doesn't get lost. That's the way that I said the no to the team. Do you guys have any other thoughts on how to roll out a no or any thoughts about these?
I'd love to hear how your board member accepted your no as a no, full stop. How did that go over?
Well, I had to be a little firm. Sometimes I'm a little firm, and then sometimes I would get off the phone with people and think, I am going to get myself fired. I am going to get myself fired. I had to say nicely, but then when she pushed a little bit, I had to say, look, I have to be real with you, and we're not making payroll. So the first priority has to be stabilizing our finances so that we survive.
Mhm.
Once we are a little bit more stable in a year, we can revisit this idea of what do we want our name to look like? What do we want our presence to look like? But I need time to make sure that the organization can survive another year. And she accepted that. That's hard not to accept, though. I mean, when you're really faced with that kind of reality.
Yeah.
But good question. This is the other challenge for nice people. We have to be tough too. What I told my team, let me see if they have it. Oh, yes. Okay. So what I always said is I always, always, always start with nice, but I will push as hard as I have to push to make it work. But I start with nice. And so they got me. I don't know if you can see it. They got me an I start with nice thing for my desk. I start with nice. So
Eduardo, did you have a comment?
Yeah, no, what I was going to say, it's The message, I know that the message is very important, but how we deliver that message, it's just as important. Like, no to your team's great idea. I would start, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah,
I love it. But
totally.
then I
Yeah.
would go onto my buts. And as opposed to saying no or whatever, being straightforward. But again, it's not in me. I cannot, it's hard for me to say no.
Okay,
And
we'll do a private session, Edward.
okay, I'm on my way.
But to your point, yes, don't mistake again a little the tongue-in-cheek tone here for a suggestion to be harsh. Never, I never want to come across as harsh, truly. And we want to come across as caring. That's another thing I used to tell the team members when we were answering difficult calls. If we really didn't have resources for someone, I would say the fact of the matter is we cannot help every single person who calls us. We have to accept that. But you know what we can do and we should be doing? We should make every single person who reaches out to us feel cared about. They should feel cared about. So
Mm,
that was deeply important to me. So I believe that in my core, right? That in all of our communications, we should
Love
be
that.
respectful.
Love that.
hmm
So in doing all of this, what we have to remember, and what I alluded to in the prior slide, is that time is really just our most limited resource, right? It is, it truly is. We were talking about it as we were all logging on, how fast time goes and how little we have and how much longer everything takes. So again, in order to make the decision-making process work effectively, you really have to keep your top 2 or 3 big picture things in mind, in focus for you and your team all the time. And you need to reference them. So a lot of my strategy is a yes, but like Eduardo said, it's yes, but that's so cool. Oh, we'd love to do it. Oh, there's a lot of merit to that. Right now, we have to, I might not even say no. I often probably didn't say no. Right now, we have to focus on this. Yes, we can, but we have to talk about how we would implement it, right? So there's not even a no in that sentence. So, all right. So just to wrap it up, and then I want to leave some time for more conversation and dialogue. My goal today was to help everyone remember that there are strategies we can use to roll out a no that preserve our relationships and our reputation. That there are real costs to saying yes that we often forget. And that, to Kirsten's point earlier, that can-do people tend to underestimate the cost and overestimate your bandwidth, right? So if you're doing both of those, that can be a pretty significant risk. That our go-to decision-making questions actually lead us to yes. So they're not very helpful in decision making. And I'm suggesting that instead we ask, how does this serve us? How does this serve our organization? And I wanted to remind everyone that saying no allows us to focus on what's most important so that we're free to accomplish great things.
hmm
And then I'm going to close with this quote because I love it. And it's about us as individuals, but it's also applicable to our organization, right? So tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? You know,
It's one of my
so
favorite things.
I love it. So as we're thinking about what we're going to do, we have to give ourselves the space and the creativity and the time to do it. So I do have my contact information here, and I'm just going to stop screen share so we can have a little more discussion and time for some questions and answers. But what did you guys think of that? Was there anything in there new that you hadn't thought about, or is it just a good reminder?
I particularly like the different types of no's. That really resonates with me because I think that I think I'd like to print out your 4 things there. Just as a reminder that there are other options. It's not either a hard no or a hard yes.
Right.
And I'm thinking about a specific situation I'm in right now where I'm being asked to put a significant amount of time into something that I would really love to do, but realistically, I just can't right now. But I
Right,
worry that if I pass it up, I
right,
won't have that opportunity in the future.
right.
Um, so I'm thinking about your no that I can't remember. I think it's the second one.
Probably, yes, I would love to do that. I can do that, but we would have to have a conversation about the time
Yes,
and money. Or
exactly.
it would be, I would love to, but I can't right now. So you would have to kind of decide if you
Yeah.
think they massaged it enough. And often I said to funders, yes, but we have to have a conversation about time or money because my end was going to be if you pay us enough and I can
Mm.
hire enough people and you give us enough time,
That's right. So
probably
true.
so. But
It's
you're
so
probably
true.
not going to pay me enough to be able to do all that. But I'm
Hmm.
not going to say it. I'm going
Hmm.
to see what you want and then talk about the time and money it would take. I'm not
Hmm.
even talking about what I'm going to ask for. I'm going to talk about let's you and me together talk about the time and money it would take.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yep, it's a conversation.
Hmm.
And then you're bonding while you're having that conversation too.
True. True. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Other,
Anything else resonate with anybody?
yeah, other thoughts, other
It's a
comments?
mindset, I guess.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I have to think differently the way that I approach things. But again, it's just that the word no was never in my vocabulary. And uh, very difficult for me to say no. Very difficult.
Well, and those bullet points don't say no. So you're in good
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
shape. You're in
But
good
thank
shape.
you so much, Sharon. You were wonderful. And
Oh, thank you.
Kirsten, I cannot say enough about you. Thank you for bringing
Thank you.
incredible people to our monthly webinars or seminars or whatever. This is great. Wonderful. Thank you so, so much.
Well,
Oh,
I
it's a
so,
pleasure.
so appreciate the feedback and I so appreciate the opportunity. And I appreciate you guys helping me to flesh this out because, as I said, this was just an idea when Kirsten emailed, would you like to
Mhm.
do something? And so this gave me the opportunity to really solidify some of these thoughts and to see with you if you think, as an audience, that it is a helpful topic and maybe I can offer it to others.
What
Definitely.
I'd love to hear a little more about is using this as a team building exercise when you explore the viability of ideas. And so allowing some of the team members in a group conversation to take on a bit of a leadership role and maybe go through an exercise of the
Mm.
questions of, is this going to serve us, and going through each of those questions? Because one thing is to model it, but the other thing is how do we get everyone thinking this way, where our instinctive reaction isn't always yes, 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 of course we can do it, of course we can do it. And we as leaders can model that behavior, but how do we make that a culture for our organization?
I think that's an excellent idea and something maybe I'll suggest for the 211 team because what happened with me is, and part of how I learned this was that I didn't know all of these things when I walked in the door, right? So I walked in the door and when we had some projects that I thought were really over our head, but maybe, right? They seemed like a good idea. I brought the team together and I said, what does the team think about these things? And I really expected they might say, we're tired, we're overworked, we have so much to do, we can't take on another single thing. And they all said that. And then they all, each and every single one of them, talked themselves into a yes.
Mm.
And even with me poking concerns, and the end was a unanimous yes, and we took it on. And I thought to myself after, well, that didn't go the way I thought it was.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's when I came up with this downside of the can do, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
okay, I didn't realize this. My team can't say Eduardo, I struggle with saying no. My team can't say no either. So now we're
That's
saying
right.
yes to everything.
But by the
That's
way,
right.
Sharon, I had the opportunity of meeting a few people from 211.
Oh,
Incredible. You have picked incredible individuals
thank
that
you.
that would promote 211 in such an incredible way. And I didn't know much about 211 until I met one of your employees, and it was just wonderful.
That
So
is such
thank you. Thank
lovely
you.
feedback. Thank you for sharing that. I'm
Yeah,
delighted. All
very important.
right. Well, I don't want to keep people over, and we only have just a few minutes, Kirsten. So perhaps I should turn it
Yes.
back over to you to close.
Yes. And Sharon, you have said that you're open to hearing from anyone on the call, right?
Yes,
Anyone on the
exactly.
webinar.
Sure.
So if you'd like to reach out to Sharon, please do so. That's her email address. Sharon, thank you very, very much. What a great topic to really kind of get us thinking. You got me thinking. And I think, man, there's just always room for improvement. But what it comes down to, when I think about the purpose of, let's say for our company, what our purpose is and our driving one, two, three goals, let's say for 2026, if I can focus on those and what is that one crazy life that we want to live and what do we want to accomplish, it does get a little easier to look at external things and say, you know what, that's really not going to be a good fit. But you have to constantly remind yourself. I have a goal card that I carry around with me. I have it in front of me all the time,
Yep.
just to keep me focused on the one thing and the one thing, you know?
It's a good
So,
idea. That's a good
yeah,
strategy.
yeah. So, thank you so much, Sharon. To be
Thank you for the
continued. I can't wait for your next one.
awesome. Let me know when. All right. Bye,
Okay,
everybody.
great. All right.
Bye.
So, the next webinar is February 10th at 11 a.m., and it'll be with Loretta Skiff from Planet Grants. Loretta is the founder of Planet Grants. And she founded this organization in 2021 to create a truly sustainable career niche with a low carbon footprint. Planet Grants has helped raise over $21 million in grants through grants and social media campaigns. She's developed a $2 million workforce development program from scratch and remotely manages teams across international timelines for capital campaigns of over $300 million. So she is going to be with us. She's going to be talking not just about grants, she's going to be talking about tapping into other funding sources as well. She's very passionate about that. So we look forward to seeing all of you February 10th. Thank you again to our wonderful speaker, Sharon. Thank you to all of you. Reach out to us if there's anything we can do for you, if you have any questions. And thanks again for being here for our first webinar of the year. Yay.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.